I could talk about this for 20 minutes, but I've only got 4. So you'll let me know, okay, Jennifer?
All right.
So come closer. I always invite people to come close. And I want you to know, first of all, the first time I did the presentation on the seal a few minutes ago to the first group, I touched it. And so I'm going to encourage you not to touch it, because I was told, you know, our fingerprints and that sort of thing. So I always feel very connected to the seal because it's one of my favorite stories. So you heard the presentation before because you saw it the other night when you were at the gravesite. You saw Tim give a presentation. So I'm not going to repeat everything that he said. I'll just remind you the order. I'll let you know the order that I go in when I present. I talk about the symbolism, the number 50, because, and I ask the question, where did that come from? And everybody always knows the answer. I talk about the symbolism of the number 13. Everybody's able to participate. They know the answer to why the number 13 is so prevalent throughout. When I get to E pluribus unum, they've already answered a couple of questions correctly, so they don't feel so bad that they don't know that, because very few kids and not many adults really understand it's a Latin phrase, and they don't always remember what it means. So I just remind them it's out of many one, and that we became a nation of 13 colonies. We became one nation, and we are now one nation. 13 colonies became one nation. I talk about the fact that the presidential seal is designed. The design is taken from the Great Seal of the United States. The Great Seal of the United States is what you see on your passport. Go ahead and pass that around. And the symbolism is the same. The thing about the presidential seal is there was no act of Congress that adopted the presidential seal. The Great Seal of the United States came into existence in 1782, which is 7 years before George Washington was elected our president. So there was really no discussion of the presidential seal. But guess what? The presidential seal can be created by an executive order. It doesn't have to be approved by Congress. If any changes had to be made to the Great Seal of the United States, it would require an act of Congress. That is the seal that is used in any representation of our nation to the world, okay? Treaties, etc. But the presidential seal is on the motorcade, it's on the lectern, it's on the helicopter, it's on the plane, and different presidents have had different designs. We have evidence that President Fillmore used a seal. We have evidence that President Hayes is actually, this design actually goes back to the one that President Hayes used on White House invitations. We have evidence that President Jackson used a seal. We found half of a little red wax seal that he used to close an envelope. Part of it has some of this symbolism, and part of it was destroyed. We have evidence that President Lincoln used a seal. But there's 3 events relative to the presidential seal that are important for you to know, and I don't go into this much detail on a tour. But the executive order that was signed by President Wilson referred to the presidential flag and the presidential seal. In that executive order, he had the eagle facing the arrows, okay? And it stayed that way until 1945. He did not write down a reason as to why it was facing the arrows, but the assumption was that it was there because of war. We were at war. In 1945, President Truman wrote an executive order, and he turned the eagle back, as it is on the Great Seal, to face the olive branch, so that it would be consistent, because we are a country of peace, but we will go to war if necessary to defend our people, our principles, and our honor, our values. So, and the final executive order that's relevant for us is President Eisenhower. After Hawaii was admitted to our union, we now have 50 stars, and this has been the same ever since. I want to show you what the original seal looked like.